Spoilerin time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood alongside. We're going to spoil some Cosmos, not the drink, but the Neil deGrasse Tyson show. We're going to spoil some Game of Thrones, not the board game, but the show. And we're going to spoil the shield, not an actual shield. Brian, you ready?
Yes, I was born ready. Are you kidding me? All right, so we're diving in with what? Cosmos first?
Yeah, let's start with Cosmos because it's the least spoilery, but we just have so much fun talking about it. And Derek Chen's still hanging around. He was with us on the main episode. So Derek, you watched Cosmos, right?
Yeah. I've been watching it over regular TV every week.
So, all right. So first of all, this episode was the one that we dealt with. The first half of it, I really got sucked in.
Giant insects
again, and a reason for giant insects, not just like. Insects used to be big, but like, why aren't they big now? And an actual answer for all of that.
Yeah, I started out absolutely loving this episode. It was going to be one of my favorite episodes ever, and I still ended up loving the episode. Although they kind of lost their steam a little bit towards the end, but overall, I thought it was really good. And maybe it's because there was more stuff that I'm less familiar with. I'm less familiar with biology. And that makes a big difference. But yeah, that they were really tight at the beginning where they're like, the bugs were giant. But why was that? It was because of the plants. And the plants used to be only this high, but then the trees came. And it was clicking. It was working. And it was science. And they weren't taking pot shots. And there weren't silly animations. And it was all beautiful. Neil deGrasse Tyson was nailing it.
But as if they needed to balance the universe by giving you exactly what you wanted, at making everything a pure white shining light of content and science and positivity, they felt the need to pull a yin and yang and spend the rest of the episode guilting you about your filthy addiction to burning those old plants.
Oh, see, now I felt like they had a lighter touch than I expected.
Oh my God. Okay, what is light about the touch of, see this empty hall of extinction? It's reserved for you.
They didn't say for you.
Oh, come on.
They
didn't
don't
have
know
to.
what's going to
Come
go
on.
in there. And by the way, absolutely 100% hate the Hall of Extinction. Like, I can barely tolerate the ship of the imagination, but I'm like, okay, it's going to be our metaphor to link us. But why do you juxtapose an actual sedimentary history, geologically sound and 100% real, and then do a pan as if you're in the same field and go, and right over there is the Hall of Extinction. Like it's a real thing. I just hate that.
I don't mind that nearly as much, but I will tell you this much. I watched this episode with my 10-year-old daughter, who has not watched Cord Killers at all. And within the first 30 seconds, they're like, here's a calendar of the universe. And Penny goes, this again?
You know, I don't know with Cosmos if it's Seth MacFarlane's influence, because when I used to watch a lot of Family Guy, and I mean the guy's hilarious, but I find sometimes he gets a little on the preachy end. And it's not that I even disagree, but I just notice that he'll have a specific agenda or message he wants to get out. And I feel like that's what I've seen a lot of Cosmos is the Seth MacFarlane influence, where it's like you have science, but then there's always this like theme, and whether it's a slight against religion or, slight against, certain people in the government. But at least that's what I get out of it. And I guess because think about it every time, it just kind of ruins my experience where I want to just learn more about science.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, first of all, I agree 100% with you, Tom. The reason that the first half of this was so engaging and was so good was because it was a nuanced story that I hadn't heard before. It was hard science, and it was the story of science, and it was the story of exploration, and that is where Cosmos excels, and this business. And part of it, I'll be the first to admit, I'm in the middle of rereading for the second time, which is what rereading means, for those of you who don't know. I'm reading The Rational
You're
Optimist.
rereading for the third time.
That's right. I just finished rereading The Rational Optimist. And if what you want to do is sell doom and gloom, there's never been a worse time to try to sell that than the last 100 years of mankind's history. It's like by every metric, we're living longer, better, faster, healthier. The environment is doing better than ever before. There is not a single country whose GDP is great or lower. Yeah, there's not a single country whose GDP is greater than, I want to say $600 per person is probably totally wrong, that has experienced any deforestation. Like basically, once you hit this base level of the economy, every single country on planet Earth is experiencing more forestation and better environmental benefits. It's just really hard to hear doom. I have, after having the mind-blowing experience of having everything I thought I understood about how things were getting worse shaken, not by not by demagoguery, but instead by hard scientific numbers. It's real hard for me to have any tolerance for the thing.
And here's where I thought this episode missed an opportunity. And part of the reason why I felt it was going to be preachier too is because this show has been preachier. And they never came right out and said, you are the problem, right? They kind of left it as a soft question.
They said we can't break our addiction to burning old trees or whatever.
But they didn't go like, you're going to cause the earth to burn up in 10 years, which is kind of what I was expecting him to say.
I mean,
go ahead, Dan.
Cosmos should be more inspirational, right? Because, I mean, it's supposed to be, at the end of the day, it's also supposed to be programming for kids in schools. And I think, to your point, Brian, if it's so doom and gloom, I mean, it kind of kills it for a kid who wants to be inspired by science and wants to do something great.
I think that they missed an opportunity. The reason I was going to say that, when they talked about the volcanic eruption and release of CO2 into the atmosphere and the runaway greenhouse effect that happened in the Permian, I was like, this is great. You don't have to say a thing. You don't have to preach. You don't have to be doom and gloom.
Tell the facts.
Say, this actually happened. There's no controversy. And then at the very end, just say, as we increase the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere ourselves, we should keep in mind what effect that might have. And that's it. Right? Because you just showed people what the effect is, and you showed them in a way that can't be, you can't pick at it, and then just be like, there's another fact. We're putting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere right now. Leave it there because it's not a political show. It's a science show.
Right. Well, and here's the problem, and this is weirdly a talk that I'm going to have with Penny, is that the one thing that drives me nuts, and this is, I don't know, slightly political, but hopefully people will follow me here. I loathe the fact that people act like the entire climate change discussion is a polar issue. It's either up or down, yes, no. It's not binary. It's a spectrum. You have a series of questions. First of all, is it getting warmer? And the answer is, after a lot of science, yes. Is it humans' fault? And the answer is, after a lot of science, yes. But then we get into a lot of other questions like, is that bad? And we get a lot of people.
What should we do about it? Is an entirely different matter.
Well, not even what should we do. The question is, should we do something about it? And then it's what should we do?
One answer to what we should do is nothing.
Right. Adapt or prevent. Is it even possible to prevent? And, could it be, there's a number of people that point out that increased CO2 is actually causing the greenest year in history in the last 100 years. And again, please spare me,
and
like,
to me, the science
whatever.
of present day climate change is an entire episode.
Yes.
I think this show had a much better chance to get people thinking about the problem scientifically instead of politically by using the Permian. And when I saw them do that, I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Which is like, let's not have a debate. Let's just give people something to ponder and think about.
Right. Instead, they immediately went to equating diagnosis with policy, which was a real bummer.
Hall of Extinction.
And it was a crude hammer to
Meanwhile,
use
at the Hall of Extinction, that's Superman and Wonder Woman and the Wonder Twins. No, I hate the Hall of Extinction.
Well, and by the way, I think it's fair to say that we're not denialists. We just don't understand why they clumsily inject this into Cosmos, right?
Right. It's not about hiding it or pretending it's not happening. It's about, if you're going to realize you have a mixed audience, which they obviously do, how do you make an effective scientific presentation that people will swallow and cause change down the road? They didn't do either. They didn't hit you in the face with anything, which may have been better. I don't know. On the other hand, they also just kind of did this weird guilting thing, like, well, if you don't want to eat your peas, I guess that's your own fault.
It did feel terribly.
Figured out who the audience is for this show. I mean, you have kids, you have science geeks, and then you also, if they're doing that message, they're also trying to reach that other party that's like maybe against side or whatever it is. So they're trying to appease everyone, and it just becomes a little bit all over the place.
Right. Hang on, I'm in the middle of somebody's wrong in the chat room.
Dear. Okay, hold on, everybody. Pause.
Everybody in the
There's
chat's
a person wrong on the internet, and we need to fix this now.
Well, this is also is that people are like, well, it wasn't hot this month, therefore, no. Stop talking.
They're trolling
Stop
you.
Talking.
They're trolling you.
But I don't know.
Actually, I want to say something about the animations because I rag on the animations all the time. I thought they were well used. I'm still not a big fan, but they were sparsely used. And when they were used, it was in a way that helped me appreciate Ms. Tharp. And so I appreciated that. I thought if you're going to do it, I thought this was an example of how to do it.
I will say that of all the passive aggressive things that they do, the one I actually approve of is the passive aggressive pro-feminist agenda in Cosmos. I genuinely love it. The fact that they keep showing
do you
women.
think it's passive aggressive though? I don't feel like it's that way at all. I feel like they're just. It's almost sexist to say that it's passive aggressive because all they're doing is like, here is a woman who did science.
Okay, you know what? Science is based on predictions, and we have a natural experiment here. I will predict that for the rest of the series, every time you see a woman, there is a better than coin flip chance she will have the right idea, be shouted down by some kind of man, and eventually be proven right. How about that?
And they did have that character, the guy character, say, "This is more of your girlish nonsense."
Exactly, every time. And again,
although that's also probably a direct quote from the time. So.
Probably. Let me also say, somebody, I think last week had mentioned that there was a Star Talk Radio where they had the actual writers of Cosmos on there. And it was Star Talk Radio hosted by Neil deGrasse Tyson. And it was Andrian and the other guy. It was the other guy, because there was Sagan, Durian, and the other guy, Stephen, whoever. So Stephen, whoever was on there, and I really dug the talk. I highly recommend everybody listen to it. He flat out said, yeah, man.
Steven Soder.
There you go.
I can't let that go. Steven Soder.
Steven Soder. He said flat out, like, yeah, the animation, not my thing. Nah, I wouldn't have done it that way. But, they did it and they did. And even Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, well, in the original series, they acted everything out. This time they wanted to do animation. I didn't like it, but then I came around to it. And he specifically mentioned how many people are watching it with their kids on their laps. And if animation is what it takes to sucker the kids into paying attention and being engaged, then he's okay with that. And I guess I am too.
Works for manga.
Yeah, no, that ain't nothing.
I don't know why I said that. I meant anime too, and I said manga. Well, are we done with Cosmos? Time to move on?
I think so.
All right, I'm going to give the hand sign for the video users, which is the game of, G. Yeah, anyway, we're moving on to Game of Thrones. That's why we have the lower third now. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
What happened? Who got to Cersei?
I think the reality of the situation got to Cersei, right? I mean, isn't that she's always a practical person? And I think she realized that the only way. I know we
get a lot of flack for saying, but in the book, but I'm going to go right to, but in the book,
yep.
she does not like Marjorie.
Agreed.
There's no liking of Marjorie. And it didn't make sense because you see it set up like she sees her smiling at Tommen. They're like, here's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
She's gonna go rip her a new one. She's going to manipulate her. And she just goes up and goes, I'd kind of like you on my side. And then Marjorie rips her one and she lets her. Like, oh, okay.
I have enough faith in this show to say that there's some reason that they're doing this. I don't know what it is. Right. I'm not going to claim to get it yet. But
I feel that way about the Jon Snow stuff, which is all totally new. And I feel like there's a reason they're doing that too.
Can I confess something? Well, first of all, let me ask, before I say anything, let me ask Derek. Derek, you only watched the first season, is that right?
No. I only watched episode 1 of season 1. When they threw the kid out the window, I kind of gave up on the show. And then I found out that apparently the kid was...
and then you see that kid like with some amazing wizard power occupying the body of a mute giant.
Yeah.
You're like, well, apparently I missed something between episode 1 and here.
A few things happened in between, yeah.
So you did not read the books?
No. To be honest, fantasy is not my thing, and I should be saying this while you guys are talking about it. But,
no, this is okay.
I'm still interested. I think I might catch up on it since so many people are talking about it.
Do you get the traditional talk where everyone's like, yeah, but it's fantasy, but it's really not. They hardly ever show the fantasy elements.
I mean, I don't even watch... I watch Star Wars, but I'm not even a fan of Star Wars because I think it's too fantasy.
It's like the medieval Wire.
Yeah. It's medieval Breaking Bad. It's medieval House of Cards.
It shows you what really happens in fantasy kingdoms.
All right, well then let me get this right out in the open. This was maybe the least, I'm not going to say it's bad. This was maybe the least interesting, least good episode in the entire series.
It was very much treading water, wasn't it?
Everything.
And the season got up to such a rip-roaring start. I felt the same way a little bit.
Nothing paid off. Everything felt like a fulfillment on a debt. Even like when I think of the highlight moments, it was kind of cute when what's her name? When Arya is listing her names and then, out loud says, "And the Hound, that's you. I'm going to kill you someday.
You're the Hound, and I'm going to kill you. And I'm not afraid to tell you."
Again, I understand that you need certain episodes to move everything forward.
I like that scene, to be honest.
But for example, I was under no illusions. I didn't think there was a chance in the world that Bran and Jon were going to have a big old hug and a how do you do and be excited to see each other. I knew that this was a construct to get us agonizingly close together and then move on. As a result, everything felt like a waste. I feel like this entire episode, you could cut this entire episode out and lose nothing. Is there anything that happened in this episode that you need to know from last episode moving forward? We got what? We got a scene where Daenerys hears about what happened in Westeros. Who cares? We got a scene where Tommen is the king. Everyone bows. Who cares? We have Arya hates the Hound. Who cares? We have Jon Snow kills some guys, which again, you could have just told us that happened off screen. We have Bran almost, but not quite, sees Jon, and it's kind of cool that he occupies Hodor, and that's it. Episode, bada bing bang, flush it down the toilet.
You have to see Tommen coronated, and possibly you're right, that Cersei Marjorie thing is going to play out, so you need that scene. I think they could have done better with Daenerys, because again, in the book, you get a representative from, I think it's Astapor. Am I got that right?
Well, and it was
who shows up and wants to marry Daenerys.
That's right.
So this was a little like, this was actually speeding through it. This is doing what you want, being like, well, let's not go through all that. Let's just say like, okay, they revolted, and we need to have Daenerys come to that decision that she's going to give a little more time than Meereen. So we do need that. And we need to see what happens at Craster's Keep. I don't know why, because I don't know where that's going, but they were going there for a battle. I'd be pretty disappointed if they just all of a sudden were back in Castle Black going, yeah, we had the battle and a few people died.
Well, okay, fine.
You forgot about the uncomfortable screaming too.
Time?
The loud screaming.
Which time?
The bed scene.
I don't know. The
night in the castle.
Oh yeah, the having sex. When
Littlefinger.
Yeah.
And you got to set that whole thing up.
Yeah. Okay, those were the only two moments that mattered. Was Littlefinger marries Lysa, and then Lysa's crazy, which we all get, and then also. The other significant moment was Dany realizes that she needs to learn to lead. She needs to learn to be a queen before she goes and conquers. And that's pivotal. But awful lot of time and real estate dedicated to get us there. I think the problem
isn't in any one of these scenes being needed or not. It's that you got all links. There was the action was supposed to be Craster's Keep, but we really knew like they're going to go in and kill everybody. Like, where is that going? To me, that wasn't action. That was, again, another link, even though it was a very action-oriented link. We didn't advance the story particularly in any of these. And if we'd advanced the story in one or two, we wouldn't feel so much like we're treading water.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page. And again, they have so much credit that I am not giving up on this show, and that's just fine. They've earned 12 of these episodes, if that's what it takes. But this one really stood out to me as being one of the weakest as far as the pace and the strength of these episodes that I've come to expect.
Yeah. All right. Shall we finish up with The Shield?
Yeah, we shall. Talk to me about The Shield.
My book club approach, I watched episode 10, Dragon Chasers, wherein Vic Mackey helps Connie quit her crack addiction by going cold turkey, and then that ends up being a total waste of time. Although, for us, the viewer, it's not a waste of time because you see him finally talk to his wife, and she understands, oh, I see why you do some of these things. You're really trying to help. And I thought that was a pivotal moment in their relationship, which has been a little bit cookie cutter. Like, you don't understand how hard my job is. Well, you don't understand how hard it is with the kids, and especially with having problems. And this was a deepening of that understanding, which I thought was great. And unfortunately, it comes at the expense of Connie, who's pretty much like written off at this point for the time being.
How do they actually wrap everything up with her? What happens to Connie at this point?
She just leaves the baby with Mackie. She's like, yeah, I'm no good for him. Which was a little weird. I know she's high, but like the whole episode, she's like, no, you can't. And he's like, maybe it would be better if he went somewhere else. She's like, no, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. And then at the end, after getting like quit, like she's done with the shakes, she just goes right back into the drugs. Okay, not unusual. And then decides, nah, I don't want the kid anymore.
Right. So where are you at as far as your enthusiasm for the overarching story? Are you still plowing through it because that's what you're supposed to do, or is it get?
No, I thought it was a really good episode for Dutch as well. This is the one where he investigates the serial killer case.
Yeah.
And he has the guy who's like breaking him down, and then everybody applauds after watching him because they think he's getting torn apart, and he ends up turning the tables. But then he goes into his car and cries.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
And you realize it was a double mask going on with him. And you also have what's her name, who's the officer that gets bit and is worried about AIDS.
Wait, is she Danielle? Dan, I want to say Danny, right?
Vendrell. No, wait, that's not it.
No. The chick, her name is Danny.
Sofer.
Too.
Sofer is bitten by an HIV infected prisoner. So yeah, I feel right now like I'm much more enthusiastic about the show. I don't feel like I'm slogging through because the characters are getting interesting. But I haven't hit the point where it's like, oh my God, I must, just binge on episode after episode of it. Although episode 7 was when I turned that corner, and that's when I'm like, okay, I get it now. I want to watch the next one.
Yeah.
And I'm still in that phase.
Well, good. I hope you continue for it, and maybe I'll go back and rewatch a bunch of those. I mean, the problem is it'll be my third lap. I want you to get caught up to where I was as I went through them again, so that we can watch it side by side. But instead, I'm remembering from like 4 months ago. I got like 4 or 5 episodes into season 2 when I was doing my second lap.
Yeah, it won't be that long.
Yeah,
I think I'll probably start picking up more than one episode a week. It's been a matter of timing more than anything.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm going to watch Carnivores for sure. Maybe I'll try to watch Carnivores 2 Days of Blood and Circles and finish out season 1.
All right. So if you had a coupon to spend and you could make me watch a series the way I made you watch The Shield, would you spend it on Orphan Black? Would you tell me that I have to do it? Okay. I'm seeing thumbs up from Derek on that.
Yeah.
Sure. To honestly answer that question, I'd want to sit back and think about all the shows, right? That you haven't watched and carefully evaluate them. But I'd say Orphan Black's going to make a top 5 list no matter what.
Okay, well, you still have that coupon. I will not commit myself, but I'll announce my intent to maybe start watching Orphan Black. But when you decide where you want to spend that coupon, I will totally do it.
All right. Definitely. Let me think about that. I'd want to pick a series that's done the way The Shield is.
Yeah.
For that. Whereas Orphan Black, man, you're only a season behind. Like you can catch up on that, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Awesome, man. I guess that's it for Spoilerin.
Hooker. Oh wait, no.
Jeez. Hey, man, thanks to everybody who supports the show, and you guys get Spoilerin time early. All our Patreons at cordkillers.com. And what else? Is that it?
I think that's it. Thanks, Derek, again for hanging out with us, man. It's cool.
Oh, thanks. This was awesome.
Dude, great as always. Our man on the inside, our fifth columnist. Thank you, Derek.
You're spoiled, everybody.
You're ruined. Get out of here. Let's go take a shower.